Do you know how to put a hat onto your head? Today, I noticed something that I didn't expect. A group of teenagers who didn't know how to put a hat on. So I thought I'd make a quick video showing one way of doing it. It's not the only way, but it's one way to do it right. And yes, this is a real thing, sort of. The trouble is, obviously, the people who need this video the most, under 18s, they're the least likely to watch my videos. I'll put my channel analytics up and you can see not many teenagers watch my videos. I don't know why. Apparently maps and compasses, they're not TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram material. Oh well. I wasn't going to make a video today, but I had the camera in the rucksack, so I'll give it a try and we'll see what happens. Today, I was running a one-day introduction to map reading session with a school group. There were 2 adults, teachers, and 6 kids. This morning was warm and dry and sunny, but by the afternoon, the temperature had dropped and it had started to rain. So time for hats and gloves and extra layers of clothing. One of the adults put their hat on properly. The other, the younger adult, sort of managed, but none of the kids knew how to do it. And I don't mean they couldn't be bothered. I meant that they genuinely didn't know how to put a hat on. I really wasn't expecting that. But thinking about it, why would they? There was a time when almost everyone wore hats all the time, every day. But now, unless it's a fashion thing or you spend time in the hills or in cold weather, wearing a proper warm hat, it just isn't something that a lot of young people grow up doing. Anyway, in my line of work, wearing a hat, gloves, waterproof clothing and windproof clothing and all the rest of it, that's just normal. You know, they keep you warm and dry when it matters. And a good hat, I think, it just makes you feel good. Oh, one thing about hats, by the way. Some people still think that you lose most of your body heat through your head, but this isn't true and it never was. It's a myth. But do you know how this strange idea came from? Where did it come from, that you lose most of your body heat through your head? Good question. Thank you for asking. Sorry to start waffling, but you know, as we're talking about hats, I'm not sure how to explain this really. I really should prepare these videos, shouldn't I? Instead of just starting to talk to the camera. Oh well. I'll put it like this. Before the age of social media, after people had finished education, where did most of us get our information from? The press. Now, the press might sound like a grand, careful institution. That is a collection of thoughtful journalists who will diligently study complex topics and then skillfully break them down so that uneducated people, that's you and me, so that we can understand. Well, that's the theory. In reality, normally it's just a journalist skimming through a complicated topic that they don't really understand and then rewriting it in a simpler terms, you know, that seem about right. And that's the version that everybody reads. And so it becomes what everybody knows. I'll give you an example. I think it was in 2008. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. The British Medical Journal published an article saying that the claim that we lose 40 to 50% of our heat through our heads wasn't true. And this article was then picked up by I think it was the Guardian newspaper in the UK and lots of other media outlets around the world. They all pointed to the same origin for the myth of losing so much heat through your head. It was a US Army survival manual from the 1970s. Now, here's the thing that I find most strange. The British Medical Journal is peer-reviewed. That means that other scientists are supposed to check everything, in it before it's printed, before it's published. And yet, apparently, no one, not the authors, not the editors, nor the peer reviewers, or the journalists, or anyone else, actually bothered to go and read the original United States Army Manual. The entire article in the British Medical Journal and all the follow-up press coverage was referring back to this US Army Manual that it seems that no one had actually read. So I did. I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was called FM 2176. This isn't a US Army secret code, by the way. FM 2176 is just a catalogue reference. FM in the US Army stands for Field Manual, 21 covers general individual soldiering skills, and 76 is just the number assigned to that specific manual on survival. But does it actually say what everybody claims? No, it doesn't. I'll put it on your screen. I've just looked it up on the internet. Let's take a look at page 148. As I said, hopefully it's on your screen. It says you can lose 40 to 50% of your body heat from an unprotected head. That's exactly what it says. Did you note that it says you can, not you will? Which, in context, is true. The US Army, like all armies, takes the survival of its soldiers very seriously. And they don't make claims in training manuals which aren't based on facts. The manual talks about wearing insulated clothing and then says if you don't wear a hat, your head is the only part that's exposed, and then you can lose up to 45% of your body heat through it. It's not saying that the head is some sort of magic heat vent. It's just that if it's the only part left uncovered, that's the point on your body where most of the heat will escape from. It's quite simple. So the real issue isn't that the US Army Manual was wrong. It's not. It's correct. It is that virtually everyone misquoted or misunderstood it, or more likely, never actually read it in the first place. And then they just relied on someone else's incorrect interpretation. And maybe, well, just maybe, if all those clever scientists and journalists had taken just 5 minutes to check the source that they were all relying on, there would have been no juicy myth to disprove. Mind you, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But hey, at least you now know where this myth that you lose all your body heat comes from your head. Anyway, let's stop this waffle and stay focused. Let's get back to teenagers who don't know how to put on a hat. Here we have, this is just one of my hats. As far as I can tell, there are 5 main ways to put this on your head. Mind you, okay, if you really want to, there are a million other ways, to put one of these onto your head. But these are the 5 most common methods. So you can start with the hat directly above your head, like this, and then just pull it straight down. Yep. The pros of this method are that it's very quick and it's a good way to do it if you're in a rush. The cons are that it's easy for the hat to become twisted or misaligned. And if you have longer hair, which I don't, your hair can get trapped over your face, especially if the wind's blowing. Also, in multi-layer hats like this, the material can become bunched and make the hat eventually uncomfortable to wear. But the main problem with this method, just pulling it down, is that there's no real control over where the hat lands on your head, The next 2 ways of doing this really depend on whether you're left-handed or right-handed. With this method, what you do is you hold the hat in your dominant hand, like this, and then you just pull down with the other one. The pros for this method is that it can work well for looser, stretchy hats or stretchy material. and you might just happen to get it right. But the cons are that the hat will almost always end up misaligned or half on. So you just keep doing it again and again until you get it right. Also, this is just my opinion, I'd say repeatedly pulling down from one size can cause the material to stretch unevenly. The fourth method that we'll look at today is to start with the hat at the back and pull the head forward. And this is the way the kids were doing it this afternoon, when they put their hat on. I think the only pros to this method, and the reason that the kids all used it, is that it feels natural. It's like pulling on a hoodie, but there are lots of cons to this. It often results in the hair, or the hat being too far back. It can leave your forehead exposed, or it can push the fringe or your hair awkwardly over your eyes. Also, tight-fitting hats, this method actually fights against the grain of how the fabric stretches. Okay, with all this said, how should you put on a hat? Are you watching, kids? They're not, are they? But you should hold your hat in two hands in front of, in like this, in the position that you want it. Put the front of the hat on first over your forehead, so here, and then simply pull and slide downwards. There you go. How's that? There are so many pros with this method. As an example, this is the best method for lining everything up evenly. It covers your ears properly, and you have more control over where the hat is placed. It reduces twisting and bunching of the hat's material, and it naturally, if you've got long hair again, it pushes your hair out of the way, etc., like this. As far as I can see, there's only one con, and and that is that it's slightly slower from the shoved down from above approach. But that's the only con that I can think of. So there you go, kids. How to put on a hat. Put the front part on first, and then simply slide backwards. What a strange video, how to put a hat on. As I said, I didn't expect to make a video today, so hopefully that went well. Oh well, thanks for watching.